Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the massive council chamber on Zentara Prime. The room was bigger than any building on Earth. Hundreds of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose up like a giant bowl around him. Their eyes, tentacles, and other strange body parts all focused on the lone human in the center. Jake felt sweat on his forehead, but kept his back straight. He had been Earth's voice in the Galactic Federation for 10 years. He had seen aliens argue and fight before. But today felt different. Today felt dangerous. The chamber buzzed with angry sounds. Some aliens clicked their claws. Others made low, growling noises. A few species that looked like walking crystals rang like broken bells. Jake knew they were all talking about one thing: humans. Silence. The voice boomed across the chamber. Council Speaker Vexthara rose from the highest seat. She was 12 feet tall and made of blue crystal that seemed to glow from inside. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music and thunder at the same time. "We are here to discuss the human problem," Vexthara said. Her crystal face had no expression, but Jake could hear the coldness in her voice. "For 50 years, we have tried to help humanity join our peaceful galaxy. We have failed." Jake's hands turned into fists at his sides. He wanted to speak, but he knew the rules. Humans could only talk when asked direct questions. "The evidence is clear," continued another council member. "This one looked like a giant octopus made of metal. Humans start fights. Humans question our laws. Humans refuse to follow our guidance. They are too wild, too angry, too dangerous." More angry sounds filled the chamber. Jake saw hundreds of alien faces looking at him with fear and hate. These beings ruled thousands of worlds. They had technology that could destroy stars, but they were afraid of humans. "The Psychological Evaluation Committee has finished their study," Vexthara announced. "Humans show aggression levels that are 300% higher than the galactic average. Their violent thoughts and actions threaten the peace we have built over 10,000 years. A hologram appeared above Jake's head. It showed human. Soldiers training, human ships in space, and human colonies on distant worlds. Everything looked normal to Jake, but the aliens made disgusted sounds. Therefore, Vexthara's voice grew louder. The Galactic Federation Council has reached a decision. Humanity must choose. Submit to our guidance, or leave the Federation forever. The chamber fell silent. Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was it. The moment Earth had feared might come. If humanity chooses to submit, these are our demands, Vexthara said. A new hologram appeared, showing words in Earth's languages. First, all human military forces must be disbanded. No human may carry weapons or pilot warships. Second, all human worlds must accept Federation governors to rule them. Third, all humans must undergo genetic modification to reduce their aggression by 60%. Jake's mouth fell open. They wanted to change human DNA. They wanted to make humans into something else. If humanity refuses these terms, Vexthara continued, Earth and all human colonies will be expelled from the Federation. All trade will stop. All technology sharing will end. All protection will be removed. Humanity will face the galaxy alone. Jake knew what that meant. Humans needed Federation technology to travel between stars. Without it, the human colonies would slowly die. Earth would be trapped in its own solar system forever. Admiral Morrison. Vexthara turned her crystal face toward him. You will carry this message to your leaders. Humanity has 30 standard days to decide. Submit and survive, or refuse and face extinction. The chamber erupted in alien sounds again. Most seemed happy with the decision. A few aliens looked worried, but they stayed quiet. Jake stood alone in the center of it all. 30 days. In 30, Days, humanity would either bow down like slaves or die fighting like humans. "I will take your message to Earth," Jake said in a loud, clear voice. The chamber quieted again. "But I think you should know something about humans." "Speak," Vexthara commanded. "You say we are too aggressive, too violent, too dangerous." Jake looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien eyes as he could. "You say this like it is a bad thing. But I think you are afraid because you know what we really are." "And what is that?" asked the metal octopus. Jake smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "We are the children of warriors. We are the sons and daughters of fighters. We have never bowed to anyone, and we never will. Brave words from a species that cannot survive without us," Vexthara said. "Maybe," Jake replied. "But here is something to think about while we make our choice. If humans are really as dangerous as you say, what do you think will happen when you try to force us to kneel?" The chamber fell silent again. This time, the silence felt heavy and dark. Jake turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the huge room. As he reached the door, he stopped and looked back. 30 days, he said. "We will give you our answer in 30 days. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the White House on Earth. President Lisa Carter sat behind her desk, looking tired and worried. Around the room, Earth's most important leaders waited for his report. "They want to change our DNA," Jake said. "They want to make us into something that is not human anymore." Defense Secretary Paul Bennett shook his head. "We cannot fight the entire galaxy. We have maybe 200 ships. They have millions." "Paul is right," said Dr. Susan Clark, Earth's top scientist. "We depend on Federation technology for everything. Without them, our colonies will die." But Director Amy Rodriguez looked excited. "Maybe not," she said. "We found something on Mars. Something big." President Carter leaned forward. "What kind?" "Of something? Ruins," Amy said. "Ancient ruins that do not match any known alien technology. The writing looks almost human, but older than our oldest records." "How much older?" asked Jake. 50,000 years older." The room went quiet. Jake felt a strange excitement in his chest. 50,000 years ago, humans were supposed to be living in caves on Earth. "There is more," Amy continued. "The ruins contain what looks like a massive computer system. We have not been able to activate it yet, but our experts think it might contain star maps and historical records." President Carter stood up. "How long until we can access this system?" "Maybe a week, maybe 2. Jake thought about the council chamber and the crystal being who had demanded humanity's surrender. "We need to send a message back to the Federation." "What message?" asked Paul. Jake walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, hundreds of alien species were celebrating what they thought would be humanity's defeat. "Tell them we refuse their demands," Jake said. "Tell them humanity kneels to no one." "Jake," Paul said quietly, "that is declaring war on the entire galaxy." Jake turned back to face the room. His smile was cold and hard. "Good. It is about time the galaxy remembered what humans are really capable of." President Carter nodded slowly. "Send the message." That night, Jake's words traveled across the galaxy faster than light. On thousands of worlds, billions of aliens heard humanity's answer to the Federation's ultimatum. "We are humanity. We do not kneel. We do not bow. We do not surrender. If you want our submission, come and take it." The message ended with something that made alien leaders everywhere feel a chill of fear. "See you in 30 days?" Dr. Chris Taylor knelt in the red dirt of Mars, brushing sand away from strange metal that seemed to glow in the dim sunlight. The ruins stretched for miles across the Martian valley. Every day, his team found something new and impossible. "This cannot be right," muttered Dr. Kate Foster, looking at her scanner readings. This metal is older than human civilization, but it is definitely made by human hands. Chris stood up and wiped sweat from his forehead. Even with the environmental suit, Mars was a hard place to work. But what they were finding here might save humanity from the Federation's ultimatum. "Show me," Chris said, walking over to Kate's position. She pointed her scanner at a wall covered in strange symbols. The metal contains human DNA markers embedded in its structure. Whoever built this was definitely human. But look at this date. Marking. Chris read the symbols that their translation computer had worked out. 52,000 years ago. He shook his head. That is impossible. Humans were barely using stone tools back then. Maybe humans on Earth were using stone tools, said a new voice behind them. Chris turned to see Dr. Amy Rodriguez climbing down into the excavation site. As Director of Colonial Affairs, she had access to information that most people never saw. "What do you mean?" Chris asked. Amy pulled out a tablet and showed them the star map. "We have been thinking about this all wrong. What if humans did not start on Earth?" "That is crazy," Kate said. "All the evidence shows humans evolved on Earth." "All the evidence we have been allowed to see," Amy corrected. "But think about it. How did humans spread across Earth so fast? How did we develop technology so quickly? Why are we the only species on Earth that dreams of the stars?" Chris felt something cold in his stomach. "Are you saying humans are aliens?" "I am saying humans might be natives coming home." Amy pointed to the ruins around them. "What if Earth was a colony? What if the real human civilization was out there among the stars, and something happened to it?" Before anyone could answer, a young archaeologist named Bobby Martinez came running over the ridge. "Dr. Taylor, you need to see this." "We found the main chamber." The team followed Bobby through the ruins to a massive doorway built into the side of a hill. The door was made of the same glowing metal, but it was covered in symbols that seemed to move and change as they watched. "It opened by itself about an hour ago," Bobby explained, "like it was waiting for us." Chris approached the door carefully. As he got close, the symbols on the door began to glow brighter. Words appeared in perfect English. "Welcome home, children of Terra." "Terra," Amy whispered. "The old word for Earth." The door slid open with a soft humming sound. Beyond it was a corridor that seemed to stretch forever into the hill. Lights came on automatically as they walked forward. "The air is breathable," Kate said, checking her scanner. "How is that possible after 50,000 years?" "The whole place is running on some kind of automated system," Chris replied. "Look at these walls." The corridor walls were covered in pictures that seemed to move like movies. They showed humans in advanced spacesuits building cities on distant worlds. They showed massive ships traveling between stars. They showed a civilization that made the current Federation look primitive. "My God," Amy breathed. "Look at the size of those fleets." The pictures showed human ships by the thousands, each one larger than anything the Federation had ever built. They showed human colonies on hundreds of worlds, human technology that could move planets and build new stars. At the end of the corridor was a circular chamber with a raised platform in the center. On the platform was a chair that seemed to be made of light itself. "What is that?" Bobby asked. Chris walked slowly toward the chair. As he approached, words appeared in the air above it. "Please sit, Commander. The archive is waiting." "Commander?" Chris looked back at his team. "I am just an archaeologist." "Maybe to us," Amy said quietly, "but maybe not to them." Chris sat down in the chair. Immediately, the chamber filled with light. Images appeared all around them, showing the true history of humanity. 55,000 years ago, humans had ruled a third of the galaxy. They were called Terrans, and their empire stretched across 10,000 star systems. They were explorers, builders, and warriors who brought peace and prosperity wherever they went. But they were not alone in the galaxy. Other species feared Terran power and technology. Led by a coalition that would later become the Galactic Federation, these species formed an alliance against humanity. The war lasted 1,000 years. In the end, the Terrans were not defeated in battle. They were betrayed by their own allies, species they had helped and protected. The betrayers used a weapon that erased Terran technology and wiped the memories of any Terran who survived. They scattered us, Chris said, watching the images with horror. They took our memories and dumped us on primitive worlds across the galaxy. The images showed Terran survivors being placed on worlds like Earth, where they were forced to start over with nothing. Their technology was destroyed, their history was erased, and their children grew up never knowing what they had lost. Earth was a prison, Amy said. We have been prisoners for 50,000 years, but the images were not finished. They showed secret Terran bases hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting for the day when humanity would remember who they really were. The bases contained ships, weapons, and technology that made Federation science look like children's toys. The final image showed coordinates, hundreds of them scattered across the galaxy. Weapons depose, Chris said, reading the information flowing into his mind. Shipyards, research stations, all waiting for us to come home. The chair released him, and Chris stood up on shaky legs. Around the chamber, his team stared at him with wide eyes. We need to contact Earth immediately, Amy said. The president needs to know about this. But before anyone could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ruins. Kate checked her scanner and went pale. Federation ships, she said. 3 of them approaching Mars. Chris felt anger building in his chest. The Federation thought they could spy on humanity's secret places. Bobby, get everyone back to the transport, he ordered. Amy, copy everything you can from this chamber. Kate, start the emergency beacon. As they worked, Chris looked at the images still playing around the chamber. He saw Terran warriors fighting impossible odds. He saw scientists building wonders that could reshape worlds. He saw people who never gave up, never surrendered, never knelt. We are not going to submit to their demands, he said quietly. Amy looked up from her work. What? The Federation. They think they are dealing with primitive humans who need their help to survive. Chris smiled, and it was not a kind smile. They have no idea what they just woke up. 2 hours later, the team was back on Earth, standing in the White House Situation Room. President Carter listened to their report with growing amazement. Are you telling me that humans once ruled the galaxy? She asked. Not ruled, Chris corrected. We were part of it. We built it. And then our allies destroyed us because they were afraid of what we might become. General Karen White leaned forward. These weapon depots you found, are they still functional? According to the archive, yes. Everything was designed to last until we came back. Defense Secretary Paul Bennett shook his head. Even if this is true, we only have 20 days left. That is not enough time to reach these bases and bring back whatever is there. Maybe we do not need to bring them back, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Captain Steve Mitchell entering the room. He was one of Earth's best pilots and had volunteered to test humanity's new experimental faster-than-light drive. What do you mean, Steve? President Carter asked. Steve pulled out a datapad. I have been studying these coordinates Dr. Taylor found. One of them is only 2 days away at maximum speed. It is listed as a shipyard called New Sparta. 2 days, General. White said. We could send a small team. I volunteer, Steve said immediately. If there really are ships there, we need to know what we are dealing with. President Carter looked around the room. The Federation expects our answer in 20 days. If we are going to fight, we need every advantage we can get. Madam President, Chris said quietly, there is something else. The archive showed me the real reason the Federation wants to change our DNA. They remember what happened 50,000 years ago. They know what humans are capable of when we fight for our freedom. And what is that? Chris met her eyes. We win. 2 days later, Captain Steve Mitchell sat in the pilot seat of the scout ship Venture as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of an empty star system. According to the Martian archive, this system should contain humanity's lost shipyard. Scanning for the station, reported Lieutenant Danny Cole, his co-pilot. I am not seeing anything. Steve checked the coordinates again. They were in the right place. Try scanning for energy signatures. Danny's scanner beeped. Got something. It is faint, but there is definitely artificial energy coming from ... Wait. His voice got excited. Steve, you need to see this. Steve looked at the scanner display and felt his heart stop. There, hidden behind the system's gas giant, was a structure larger than any human city. It was a space station built into an asteroid, covered in docking bays and construction platforms. New Sparta, Steve whispered Dot as they approached the station. Lights began coming on across its surface. Docking bay. Captain Tony Garcia stood on the bridge of the newly discovered Terran cruiser Defiance, watching the stars streak past as they traveled toward the Valorian system. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Mitchell discovered the new Sparta shipyard, and everything had changed. Earth now had 50 advanced warships, with more being awakened every day. But President Carter had realized something important. If humans were not the only species that had been betrayed and scattered, then maybe humanity did not have to fight alone. Approaching Valoria Prime, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the navigation station. The planet is under Federation blockade, just like our intelligence said. Tony nodded. The Valorians were warrior people who had been kept at medieval technology levels for thousands of years. The Federation claimed was for their own good, to prevent them from becoming dangerous. Now Tony suspected the real reason. Are they answering our transmission? He asked. Yes, sir. King Marcus wants to meet with us, but he warns that Federation ships are watching everything. Tony smiled. Let them watch. It is time they learn what happens when you try to keep warriors in cages. 2 hours later, Tony sat across from King Marcus in the great stone hall of the Valorian capital. The king was a giant of a man, nearly 7 feet tall with scars from countless battles. His people still fought with swords and shields because the Federation had never allowed them advanced weapons. So human, King Marcus said in his deep voice. You claim that my people are not from this world? Tony activated the holographic projector he had brought from the Defiance. Images filled the air above the table, showing the true history that had been hidden for 50,000 years. Your people were called the Valor Guard, Tony explained. They were the greatest warriors in the Terran Empire, fighting alongside humans to protect peaceful worlds from pirates and invaders. King Marcus leaned forward, studying the images of Valorian warriors in advanced armor, fighting beside humans in space battles. These warriors look like my ancestors, but they use weapons of light and metal that fly among the stars. Because they were your ancestors. The Federation has kept you here, told you that you are primitive, made you believe that swords and shields are all you deserve. But look at this. Tony showed images of Valorian engineering, where the warrior people had built massive space fortresses and designed weapons that could crack planets. Lies, growled one of the king's advisors. The Federation has given us peace for 3,000 years. Before they came, we fought endless wars. You fought endless wars because someone wanted you to, Tony replied. Look at these records. After the betrayal, Scattered Valorians were placed on dozens of worlds and told to fight each other. The Federation made sure you never had time to remember who you really were. King Marcus stood and walked to the great window that looked out over his city. In the distance, Federation observation ships hung in the sky like metal vultures. "If what you say is true," the king said slowly, "then my people have been slaves for 50 centuries. "Not slaves," Tony corrected. "Prisoners. But now the cell door is open." The king turned back to face him. "What do you want from us, human?" "I want you to be what you were born to be. Warriors, protectors, free people." Tony stood and met the king's eyes. "The Federation has demanded that humanity submit or be destroyed. We have chosen to fight. We are asking our old allies to stand with us." King Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. "A sound like thunder rolling across mountains. Stand with you?" He roared. "Human, if you can give my people back their wings, we will do more than stand with you. We will paint the stars red with Federation blood." The alliance was formed that day. Within a week, Valorian warriors were training on human ships, learning to use weapons that their ancestors had wielded among the stars. They learned fast, and they learned with joy. But the Valorians were not the only ones. Dr. Elena Brooks, a human anthropologist, had been studying the genetic records found in the Martian archive. She discovered that 12 other species in the galaxy showed signs of the same memory suppression that had been used on humans. The Nexari had once been the greatest engineers in the galaxy, capable of building technology that seemed like magic. Now they worked as simple miners, told that their complex minds were defective and needed to be kept busy with basic tasks. The Keth were master healers who had once been able to cure any disease and extend life for centuries. The Federation had convinced them that their abilities were dangerous and should only be used for minor injuries. The Solon were explorers who had mapped the galaxy's hidden routes and secret places. They had been settled on a single world and told that space travel was too dangerous for their weak bodies. One by one, Captain Garcia and his team contacted these scattered peoples. Each time, they shared the truth about their heritage. Each time, they offered alliance and freedom. Not all believed them. Not all joined the growing coalition. But enough did. 3 months after humanity's refusal to submit, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Revenge, looking at the fleet that surrounded him. 50 human ships flew alongside 30 Valorian cruisers, 20 Nexari engineering vessels, and dozens of smaller ships from the other awakened species. "Admiral," reported Commander Lisa Park from the communication station, "we are receiving a transmission from the Federation fleet at the edge of the system." "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of Admiral Kethfor, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color when he was angry. Right now, those scales were bright red. "Admiral Morrison," Kethfor hissed, "you were ordered to surrender 3 months ago. Instead, you have committed acts of war against the Federation. I have come with 200 ships to enforce the Council's decree." Jake smiled coldly. "Hello, Kethfor. Still bullying people who cannot fight back, I see. Your rebellion ends now, human. Surrender immediately, and your death will be quick." "I have a better idea," Jake replied. "Why do not you try to take us?" The transmission cut off. On the tactical display, Jake could see the Federation fleet moving into attack formation. 200 ships against 70. By all military logic, humanity and its allies were about to be destroyed. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake announced over the fleet communication system. "Today, we remind the galaxy what freedom costs. Today, we show them what happens when warriors fight for their homes and families. Today, we prove that some things are worth dying for." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. Human, Valorian, Nexari, and others, all united in their determination to be free. "But we are not here to die," Jake continued. "We are here to win. All ships engage." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Federation ships were designed to fight rebellions and suppress uprisings. They were built to intimidate, not to face real warriors in honest combat. The Terran designed ships that humanity now flew were weapons of war in the truest sense. Captain Sam Phillips, commanding the cruiser Thunder, led the first attack. His ship moved like a dancer, spinning and diving through the Federation formation, while its weapons carved through enemy hulls like paper. "Their shields cannot stop our weapons," Phillips reported over the battle network. "Whatever technology they are using, it is not designed to fight us." Valorian ships built for ramming and close combat charged straight into the enemy fleet. Their newly installed energy weapons blazed as they crashed through Federation lines, their warrior crews singing battle songs as they fought. The Nexari engineering ships proved their worth by jamming Federation communications and hacking their computer systems. Enemy ships suddenly found their weapons turning on each other or their engines shutting down in the middle of battle. Admiral Kethver's flagship tried to retreat when it became clear that the battle was lost. But Jake was waiting for him. "This is for 50,000 years of lies," Jake said as the Revenge's main guns locked onto the Federation flagship. The blast lit up space like a new star. When the battle ended, only 10 Federation ships remained. They fled toward the Galactic core, carrying news of the impossible defeat. Jake stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical display that showed 70 Allied ships still flying. They had lost only 3 vessels while destroying or capturing the rest of the Federation fleet. "Admiral," Commander Park said quietly, "we are receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The battle footage is spreading through the underground networks." "What kind of transmissions?" "Messages of support, offers of alliance, and ... double quotes." She paused, looking amazed. 3 more species have just declared independence from the Federation." Jake nodded. The revolution was spreading. But he knew this was only the beginning. "Send a message to President Carter," he ordered. "Tell her that the first battle is won, but the war is just starting. The Federation will not give up easily." As if to prove his point, long-range sensors detected massive Federation fleets moving from a dozen different directions toward human space. "How many ships?" Jake asked. "Initial count shows at least 5,000. The sensor operator reported. Jake looked out at the stars where more Federation ships than had ever been assembled in one place were coming to destroy everything humanity had built. "Well," he said to his crew, "it looks like we really got their attention." Lieutenant Danny Cole, now serving as Jake's aide, looked worried. The galaxy burned. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the orbital bombardment of Zentara Prime through the main screen. The crystal cities of the Federation capital world cracked and shattered under the combined firepower of human and Allied ships. 6 months had passed since the first battle. What began as humanity's refusal to kneel had become a war that reached every corner of the galaxy. The Federation's authority was crumbling as more species remembered their true heritage and joined the growing alliance. General Stone reports. "The capital is secured," Commander Park announced. "Federation resistance is collapsing." Jake nodded, but felt no satisfaction. The war had cost too much already. Good people had died on both sides, and he feared the worst was yet to come. "Any word from Captain Hayes?" he asked. Park's expression darkened. The convoy reached the Altair system, but they ran into a Federation ambush. Captain Hayes's ship was destroyed, but she managed to get the refugees to safety. Linda Hayes, another friend gone. Jake added her name to the list of people he would remember when this was over. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "we are receiving a priority transmission from Dr. Taylor's team on Mars. Put it through." "Doctor." Chris Taylor's excited face appeared on the screen. Behind him, the Martian ruins glowed with activity as hundreds of researchers worked to unlock more Terran secrets. "Admiral, we found it," Chris said. "The final message from the Terran High Command. It contains the location of the Nexus." Jake leaned forward. They had been searching for the Nexus for months. According to the archives, it was the capital of the old Terran Empire, a massive space station that contained the complete history of every species in the galaxy. "Where is it?" "The Void Sector. It is hidden in a region of space that the Federation claims is empty." Jake felt a chill. The Void Sector was Forbidden's territory. The Federation had always claimed it was dangerous, filled with gravitational anomalies, and spatial distortions that could destroy any ship that entered. "Chris, that region is off-limits for a reason." "Our ships cannot." "Admiral," Chris interrupted, "the Nexus is not just a space station. It is a weapon. According to these records, it has the power to broadcast the truth about every species' heritage simultaneously to every world in the galaxy." Jake understood immediately. If they could reach the Nexus and activate it, they could end the war in a single stroke. Every species would know the truth about their past, and the Federation's lies would be exposed forever. "What do we need to reach it?" "A ship capable of surviving the spatial distortions. The records indicate that Terran vessels have the right shielding technology, but it will be dangerous." Jake looked at the tactical display showing Federation fleets converging on their position. They were winning the war, but barely. The Federation had more ships, more resources, and more worlds to draw upon. If this continued much longer, even victory might not save the galaxy from the destruction. "Prepare a strike team," Jake ordered. "We are going to the Void Sector." Captain Rick Phillips, now commanding the assault ship Lightning, volunteered to lead the mission. His ship was one of the newest designs awakened from the Terran shipyards, built specifically for dangerous exploration. "The spatial distortions start at the sector boundary," Phillips reported as they approached the Void Sector. "Sensors show massive gravitational shifts ahead." "Take us in," Jake ordered. "Nice and slow." The Lightning shuddered as they entered the distortion field. Reality seemed to bend around them, and the stars outside twisted into impossible shapes. Several crew members became sick from the visual distortion, but the ship's Terran shielding held. "Admiral," the navigator called out, "sensors are detecting something massive ahead." "It is huge, sir. Bigger than a moon." Through the swirling distortions, they saw it. The Nexus was a sphere of metal and light floating in the twisted space of the Void Sector. It was easily 50 miles across, covered in towers and structures. It seemed to shift and change as they watched. "How is it staying stable in this distortion field?" Phillips asked. "Because it is creating the distortion field," Jake realized. The Federation did not forbid this sector because it was dangerous. They forbid it because they did not want anyone to find what was hidden here. As they approached the Nexus, docking bays opened along its surface. A voice spoke over their communication. "System, ancient and tired, but still strong. Welcome, children of Terra. I am the keeper of the Nexus. I have been waiting for your return." Jake and a small team boarded the station, leaving Phillips to guard the ship. The corridors of the Nexus were vast and filled with floating displays showing the history of the galaxy. But Jake could see that many of the displays were dark, their information corrupted or destroyed. "The Federation has been trying to destroy this place for 50,000 years, the Keeper explained as they walked. The Keeper appeared to be a hologram of an elderly human woman, but her eyes held the weight of centuries. "They have sent fleets, viruses, and weapons, but they cannot break through the distortions to reach us." Why did they not just destroy the whole sector? Jake asked. Because they need what is here. The Nexus contains the original genetic templates for every species in the galaxy. Without it, they cannot continue their manipulation programs. They reached the central chamber, a vast sphere filled with floating data crystals. At the center was a control platform surrounded by displays showing every world in the galaxy. This is the Codex, the Keeper said. It contains the true history of every species, every world, every event that the Federation has tried to erase. With it, you can restore the memories of all the scattered peoples at once. Jake approached the control platform. What do we need to do? Simply activate the broadcast. The Nexus will send the truth to every world simultaneously. Every species will remember who they really are. Jake hesitated. What about the species that chose to stay with the Federation? What about the ones who genuinely believe in their system? The Keeper smiled sadly. Knowledge is not a weapon, Admiral. It is a gift. What people do with the truth is their choice. Jake reached for the activation control, but alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. The Keeper's image flickered with concern. Federation ships, she announced. They have found a way through the distortions. They are attacking the outer defenses. On the chamber's displays, Jake could see Federation vessels forcing their way through the spatial distortions. They were taking heavy damage, but they kept coming. How long do we have? Jake asked. Minutes, maybe less. Jake's hand moved toward the activation control, but he stopped. Through the communication system, he could hear the sounds of battle. From his ship, Phillips and his crew were fighting desperately against overwhelming odds. Admiral, Phillips's voice came through the communicator. We cannot hold them much longer. You need to get out of there. Jake looked at the troll that would end the war, then at the displays showing his people dying to protect this place. The choice was clear. Phillips, take the ship and go. That is an order. Sir, we are not leaving you behind. You are not leaving me behind. You are saving the galaxy. Jake turned to his team. All of you, get back to the ship. Now. Admiral, Commander Park protested. We are not leaving without you. Someone has to stay to activate the broadcast, Jake said quietly. The Keeper said the Federation has been trying to destroy this place for 50,000 years. If I leave now, they will never get another chance. His team reluctantly returned to the ship. Jake watched through the displays as the lightning fought its way out of the void sector, carrying the truth about the Nexus back to the fleet. Are you ready, Admiral? The Keeper asked. Jake looked at the displays showing the galaxy in chaos. Humans and aliens dying in battles across 1,000 worlds. All because the Federation was afraid of the truth. I am ready. He activated the broadcast light, exploded from the Nexus, racing across the galaxy faster than thought. On every world, in every system, the truth reached the minds of every intelligent being. The Valonians remembered their time as guardians of justice. The Nexari remembered building wonders that touched the stars. The Keth remembered healing entire worlds. Hundreds of other species remembered their true heritage, their real history, their stolen legacy. And on Earth, humanity remembered that they were not alone. They were part of something greater, something that had been broken but could be rebuilt. The Federation's lies died in that moment. Their authority, built on 50,000 years of deception, crumbled as the truth set the galaxy free. Jake watched the displays as Federation fleets across the galaxy suddenly found themselves facing rebels they had never expected. Former allies turned against them. Entire sectors declared independence. The war was over, but it had ended with liberation, not conquest. The broadcast is complete, the Keeper announced. Every world has received the truth. Jake smiled, feeling a peace he had not known in months. That it was worth it. The Federation ships finally broke through the Nexus's defenses, but they found only empty corridors and dark chambers. The Keeper had activated the station's self-destruct sequence, erasing the last traces of the Terran Empire's greatest secret. Jake died as the Nexus exploded, taking the Federation strike force with him. But his sacrifice had given the galaxy something it had not had in 50,000 years. The truth. 3 days later,